Panic Chamber Live, baby. It's Panic Chamber time. We're going over all these players and more. Who's in the Panic Chamber? Who's out of the Panic Chamber? The Fantasy Football Show. Live Panic Chamber edition begins right now.
Live from the FantasyFootballShow.com studios. It's the Fantasy Football Show. Live! Monday through Friday, 7 p.m. Eastern.
What is going on, good people? You are watching the Fantasy Football Show. Let me get the right screen up. Panic Chamber edition. We're going to be going over all the players I just showed you and more. We're going to open up the phone lines in just a little bit, so hang tight on that. But we're going to dig right into the 2023 most controversial players, the guys on your mind that might be in the Panic Chamber. Let's go.
You are entering the Panic Chamber, brought to you by Grindhouse, vintage movie tees and hoodies. You are entering the Panic Chamber. Brought
to you by Grindhouse, our boys over at Grindhouse. Grindhouse is an amazing company. I'm going to hit this real quick so you guys can see it. Grindhouse. These are vintage movie tees and hoodies straight from the attic. We give away hoodies all the time on the channel. We just sent out about 7 or 8 to the winners from the Super Bowl live stream. So thanks to Grindhouse, our Panic Chamber sponsors the whole entire season. They're back for 2023. So let's go now. Now let's get into the potential players that we need to talk about for 2023. This is our first Panic Chamber episode for the season. I'm so excited to talk about every single name on this list. And if somebody drops a super chat of a player, I will throw that player in the Panic Chamber and close the door, not close the door. So kind of a nice little bonus advantage of dropping a super during the live stream. So if anybody has one player that they want to toss in and work out and see if they potentially are Panic Chamber player, go ahead and drop that in the super chat, and I will toss it into the Panic Chamber episode here. So let's dig right into number one. Let's start off with JT. Let's start off with JT. I think JT is probably a good player to discuss. We'll put him in the Panic Chamber, and as always, we won't necessarily close the door on him yet, but we're going to talk about him. Then decide, do we close the door or take him out and put him in the safe zone? JT's a very controversial, I think, player to draft in 2023 because his ADP is right in the middle of where we like him or we don't like him. I think there's going to be half the people in the fantasy football space that are going to be like, this guy's going to bounce back. They're going to draft a quarterback. It's going to be better than last year. Even a rookie. Let's say Stroud's or let's say the Colts trade up and grab even Bryce Young or Anthony Richardson. Things could be looking up. The problem is this number 4 overall pick. I don't know that the Colts are landing anybody but Levis here. So they do have to trade up because I think the Cardinals will trade to a quarterback needy team and we'll see 3 straight quarterbacks go. The Colts are a wild card for Lamar. Not a very likely candidate, but a wild card. Because, I mean, if I'm the Colts, I'm not so excited about Levis at 4. And I would be tempted to go, I mean, honestly, to be completely honest with you, if I was the Indianapolis Colts brass, this is what I would do. I would go get Lamar Jackson. I don't even know if I would do it in this draft because I wouldn't want to give up this number 4 overall pick. I'm not sure how it would pencil out, but it would be potentially a move later. And this is a tough spot to be in because, like, what quarterback you almost have to go rookie quarterback. You almost have to draft a rookie quarterback. There's no other option for you. You're not going Wentz again. You don't know. There's nothing to do here at this 4 spot, but potentially, I guess you roll with Minshew, which isn't bad. But you literally maybe roll the dice that Lamar doesn't get signed to an offer sheet. Okay, the NFL draft passes. And then you slap down your offer sheet after the NFL draft because it looks like it potentially might not play out for Lamar the way he wanted because the suitors are very minimal. So if the Colts wait until after the NFL draft, they draft, let's just say they go bold. They trade down a little bit or they just take them here, whatever. Jackson Smith and Jigba. You draft Jackson Smith and Jigba. And then once the draft's over, you sign Lamar Jackson to an offer sheet, surrendering your 24 and 25 first rounders, not your number 4 overall. That's what I do if I'm the Indianapolis Colts. And I roll the dice with Minshew. In that if I get stuck, I get stuck. But going Levis here doesn't make sense to me. It's too high. I don't trust Levis. If the Cardinals don't trade out and they go defense or they do something that allows Bryce Young to fall, then you change directions and you go Bryce Young. That's what I do if I'm the Indianapolis Colts. So going back to the panic chamber and looking at JT, the problem with this situation, though, is that JT is very, very much in a position where we're trying to project logic here, and I don't know that the Colts are going to head in that direction. If the Colts go with Levis, this could be what I believe to be another disappointing year for JT to a degree. I think he still plays well. It's all about staying healthy. Even with a bad team, bad offense, he had 160 plus rushing yards in week 1. If he wasn't struggling with injury, he had potential, right? There were some electric moments where he kind of bounced back and then he got hurt again. He battled injury all year. So I like JT as a second drafted player. If he falls into the second round, top of round 2, I'm kind of in. I think maybe in 1 or 2 leagues, I would not put all my eggs in one basket with JT. But if he costs you a first-round pick, there are safer options. I'd rather go wide receiver. I'd rather go Tyreek Hill. I'd much rather go Bijan Robinson. JT's got tons of value, tons and tons of value, but he's also very, very, very risky. And so for that reason, I'm going to go ahead and say that I'm panicked on him. I'm panicked on him. And I don't think that changes unless the Colts do what I did, what I described, and I don't think they're gonna. Where they go after Lamar, everything falls into place. They get Lamar after the draft. They use the number 4 overall either on Jackson Smith-Njigba, or they trade down and get Jackson Smith-Njigba, or they trade and they get Quentin Johnston, or they get Addison, or they get Flowers. And then they sign Lamar to an offer sheet for the 2024 and 2025 first round picks. But tough to say. JT, appreciate your participation as our first panic chamber player of 2023. JT.
Mashed potatoes!
I wish it could have ended better for JT. I really do. Let's go with our next player. Let me see what you guys are saying in the chat right now. By the way, first in the building's True Penguin Frake. Appreciate you. We got a super chat. This one's from Harry Crumbs. Harry drops a $10 hauler. First and foremost, Harry Crumbs. This is a moonshot.
To the moon.
Whenever you drop a $10 hauler on the show, you get a moonshot. Javonte Williams. Good news. We're going to make him next because you dropped a super chat. We've got Javonte Williams, my guy, right here, ready for you. Let's talk about Javonte. Appreciate you, Danger, being in here. Reich made it a mission number 1 to jump the Colts this year. Says peanut butter and jelly time. Matt Slayer says, would it be great if we could keep 4 and still get Lamar? It's possible to do that, like I said, if you wait until after the draft. And I don't know that an offer sheet's going to be sitting in front of Lamar before the draft. The way that the landscape looks is possible. Washington, I still think I think the Niners and the Dolphins and the Colts are all later players in Lamar Jackson if he's still around after the 2023 NFL draft. At which point the Miami Dolphins and the Niners could participate in acquiring him through an offer sheet situation. The Dolphins and the Miami Dolphins cannot right now because they don't have first rounders in 2023. You need first rounders in each of the 2 immediate drafts to participate in laying down offer sheets for a player. So the Colts, the Niners, and the Dolphins are all potential players. And when I say the Dolphins, I mean, what if Tua gets injured, between now and July? That's when there's a potential there. Let's go ahead and talk about this guy, Javonte Williams. Okay. Javonte's definitely in the panic chamber. I'm going to hit the button. I'm just going to tell you in advance because we don't know what his status is. And his ADP is climbing because of the news that he should be ready for week 1. Unfortunately, that news triggered a rise in ADP to the tune of maybe 1 or 1.5 rounds. We've noticed it on Underdog. He's been climbing. He used to be like an 8 or 9 round guy on Underdog because no one knew what was going on. The new recent news that suggests he could be ready for week 1 has hiked his value into the 7 round range. I've seen him go in 6 at times. I've seen him go consistently in round 7. And while that's not awful value, while I do think it's definitely something that I could see myself getting behind in one draft or something. When you take a look around at the 7th round, especially the top of the 7th round, you see a whole bunch of good players still. You see a whole bunch of guys that feel, sometimes Pacheco's sitting there. And I'm not saying that Pacheco's necessarily 100% going to be better than Javonte when Javonte's back and he's 100%, or he's aiming toward getting there, and he's showing that he could be potentially 100% by the end of the season, or maybe in week 10 or 11 you start seeing the old Javonte. I still feel like there are tons of players that are floating around, even Kyle Pitts floating around that 7th round range, that are just a tad bit safer. So depending on his ADP, Javonte's either a smash like in round 8, 9, or he's kind of panic chamber material at early 7 and definitely in the 6th round. So I'm going to go ahead and say, Javonte Williams, you're in the panic chamber, pal, but I absolutely love you, pal. And we're rooting for you. Panic chamber does not mean you don't invest. Panic chamber doesn't mean that we're out. Panic chamber just means that there's concern enough to say we need to be ultra careful, and there's reasons to continue to be on high alert. Javonte, you're in the panic chamber. So far we have JT, Javonte, both in the panic chamber. Thank you, Harry Crumbs, for the $10 hauler. Any super chat is going to make me talk about that player immediately, or if you're presenting a new player, I will talk about him. Drop a super chat. I appreciate you all. Let me just make sure I got all the super chats out of the way. Okay, I do see I took care of everything so far. Okay, so I'll keep an eye out for super chats. Let me know. Hit that thumb up button on your way in the door. We've got about 100 people in the building, 28 thumbs up. Let's make that number bigger. Austin Ekeler, very, 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 very curious case of Austin Ekeler. We've got so many things to worry about here. JT round 3 acceptable? Yeah, bro. As I mentioned when I talked about JT as the first panic chamber player, he's going around top of round 2. I'm kind of comfortable with that in one league, not putting all my eggs in one basket. But JT round 3, sure. Yeah, hit that thumb up button. Thank you, pal. But yeah, I learned today that I'm the longest current tenured Patriot. Says Matt Slater. I don't know what that means, Matt, but congratulations. Okay. Ekeler, there's so many parts about this that are tough to digest. Number one, Ekeler has requested to speak to other teams in regards to a trade. Ekeler is trying to get his way out of a Chargers uniform as we speak. He's negotiating. He's talking to teams. He's saying, hey, bring me in Cincinnati. Hey, bring me in maybe Chicago. Hey, bring me in Buffalo. We don't even know. It's kind of quiet on the Austin Ekeler front in terms of who he's talking to. This guy requested a trade, and because of Aaron Rodgers news, which I love talking about. I know a lot of people get sick of it, but we haven't heard a whisper about Ekeler. We haven't heard a single thing. Does anybody realize that Ekeler said, "Can I go talk trade?" He slipped out the back door, and nobody followed him. Nobody followed him. No reporters or beat writers are on the task right now. Eckler's just walking around with a hat on, walking into different organizations. No one's even paying attention. We have no reports on Ekeler and what he's doing. He's either doing it very stealth-like, or people are just so preoccupied with this Aaron Rodgers situation, no one's talking about it. Who's he talking to? Are there leaked reports of where he's visited, who he's got on the phone with? Have they all been Zoom interviews? Has he even gone anywhere in person? I don't know, but I have to tell you that Eckler's probably either going to Cincinnati, Buffalo, Chicago, Philly, or staying put in LA. And I think there's a real strong chance, I'd say 60% chance he stays in LA. And the Chargers are just placating him and saying, hey, go test your market. Let's go ahead. Let's let this 28-year-old running back go test the market. He's not going to find anybody who's all that interested. Which is shocking to me, which is ridiculous. It's incompetent that teams aren't willing to give up a freaking second-round pick for a guy that, yeah, I am worried about from a fantasy perspective, but this is Austin Ekeler, and if you're an NFL team, you'd be lucky and grateful to have this guy, even if you limited him enough to keep him healthy in your lineup. The Bengals would be so leveled up on the KC Chiefs. They just got Orlando Brown, the Cincinnati Bengals, to protect Joe Burrow. People are getting burrowed left and right, and people are going to remember it.
Get burrowed.
The Cincinnati Bengals might be looking at this guy, Austin Ekeler. And if they get Austin Ekeler, it's to the moon for everybody involved. And this coming from somebody that's very, very worried about Ekeler from a fantasy football perspective. And that doesn't necessarily change if he goes to Cincy. I really, really like him. But how many games does he play? How many games does he stay healthy? Do they keep him fresh? Does he get traded? And then he starts getting workhorse volume. Do they use him more like he was used in a Charger uniform prior to moving over to the workhorse back once Melvin Gordon exited? I fear that his workload's too heavy. He's going to eventually get hurt. He's 28 years old. 28's the new 31. New 31. 30, actually, yes, the new 31. 27 is the new 30. And Derrick Henry, we're going to talk about in a minute, it's 29. That's the new 32. So it's a catch-22. It's a double-edged sword. It's a tough topic to discuss. When I'm talking about it from an NFL GM perspective or a team perspective, a club perspective, it's absolute incompetence to not go get him for a second-round pick. Because if he plays even 10 games, but he's ready for the playoffs, or you curb him a little bit, you ease him into your offense, and he's fresh in a weird way, and he lasts like in weeks 10, 11, 12, you put him full go. I'm not saying he's going to take 10 weeks to get used to the offense. I'm not saying they wouldn't throw him to the Wolves. He has a whole offseason to prepare. But if you're safe, like the Buffalo Bills acquired Derrick Henry or Ekeler, that's such a unique situation because we know they don't just give one running back 22 carries. Like Henry or Ekeler, who I believe are very risky for declines this year at 28 and 29 years of age, are much more likely to stay healthy in Buffalo than anywhere because of the way they use their running backs, the way they throw the football, the way they don't ground and pound, and they'll ask a lot less of Ekeler. He'll be more efficient and stay healthy. They'll ask a lot less of Derrick Henry. He may stay more healthy. So Ekeler going for a second-round pick, it's incompetent not to offer it from a club perspective, especially if you're the Eagles, you're the Bears, you're the Bengals or the Bills. Those are four teams that should be jumping all in. As for Ekeler, he's in the panic chamber no matter what. He's 28 years old. And Derrick Henry did do it at 28 years old. He did have one more elite season. We'll talk about him next, just to keep parallel, keep the topics back to back and on track with what we're talking about. But Ekeler at 28, I'm not banking on him playing 17 games. I'm not saying he won't be an amazing move for a club if they make the move and they get him for the playoffs. Hard to know when he'd get banged up, if he get banged up at all. I think if he ran like a workhorse from week one on, wherever he lands, he would probably get banged up at some point, but maybe he returns for the playoffs. All things that you would consider as a GM to be an attractive risk to take for a second-round pick. And fantasy, it's too risky to take him in round one. It's too risky to take Ekeler over Bijan Robinson. It's too risky to take Ekeler over really even any of the top 5 or 6 wide receivers. And if he's in round two, I'm pretty willing to dive in and then trade him after like 1 month, because mark my words, he'll do well in week one. If let's say he's in LA, he doesn't go anywhere. He's unhappy, he's disgruntled, but he plays week one. He's going to do well. He's going to do well in week one. I'm not shocked if he has a good first month. No one is going to be able to come in here and say, Smitty, Ekeler at 100 yards and 2 touchdowns in week one. You second guessing what you're thinking? No, I'm not, because I expect him to have a good week one. There's a line in the sand where I draft Ekeler. I don't worry about Ekeler. I'll draft him as a second drafted player. I draft him at the 12-13 turn. I don't think he'll fall there. Sometimes he does in our best ball draft. Sometimes he doesn't. Sometimes he does in a mock draft. Sometimes he doesn't. Sometimes he goes number 5 overall. Sometimes he goes 11 overall. I would take him and start him for a month and then trade him. That would be my objective. But in general, I'm looking for better players. Absolutely panicked. Likely to miss games. 28 years old. Small statured running back. Lots of workload mileage. And he was not built to be a workhorse back, and he's playing a workhorse back. He's 28 years old. Austin Ekeler, I'm panicked on you, pal. Matt with a super chat. Matt says, "What's up, Smitty? Does Robinson now on New England put Stevenson in the chamber? What's the reasonable round to draft him?" So this is a good question. Let me put this right here. And because you super chatted, my guy, I'm putting Rhamondre Stevenson. Don't tell anybody, but he's not going to be in the panic chamber. We're going to put Rhamondre Stevenson briefly in the panic chamber and see if we're going to close the door or not close the door on said young man. Stevenson, you're not in the panic chamber. You're safe, pal. Why are you safe? Because you're an absolute monster, and James Robinson's no threat at all. If anything, the James Robinson signing solidifies that they're probably not going after a bigger name like Kareem Hunt, who I would have been like, Stevenson and Kareem Hunt. I mean, what an amazing... What an amazing dynamic duo. I stepped on my bullhorn. I hate when I step on my own bullhorn. Stevenson and Kareem Hunt, what an amazing dynamic duo. What an amazing dynamic duo. If Hunt would have fallen into New England's situation there, it would have been panic time potentially for Stevenson. But guess what? They signed James Robinson. I'm not worried about James Robinson. This is fantastic news for Stevenson. He's not in the panic chamber. It's a great question, Matt. And a reasonable place to draft him is round 3 or 4. I mean, the later you get him, the better. So, fantastic question. Stevenson to the moon. I absolutely love him. Let's see here. We got another question here. This one's from, should I trade away Pittman for DJ Moore? I would take DJ Moore in a heartbeat right now. That could change if Lamar, like I said, ended up in Indianapolis somehow. But no, DJ Moore's situation improved dramatically. So, I love DJ Moore right now over Pittman. Henry. Little Derrick Henry. Little bitty Derrick Henry. Are we worried? Yes. I was worried last year, and he proved me wrong. I admit it. I take a lap. Doesn't mean that the logic wasn't sound, though. It doesn't mean that the logic wasn't sound. Derrick Henry was a huge concern, and as I always said the entire time, I said this every time I talked about Derrick Henry. Every single time I talked about him being a potential bust. Is there a percentage chance, or at least almost every time, that he could deliver? Yes. I talk about it as a roulette wheel, okay? And on the roulette wheel, there's all these different yes or no's, right? And if you're a younger player, you probably have like 70% of the wheel saying, fire season. And then maybe 25 or 30% or 15% says bust season on the roulette wheel. And then the majority of them are like, mediocre, in between season. And so you spin that roulette wheel, and every season, the running back who's got a lot of high risk for injury, every running back is a risk for major injury. You have this roulette wheel. And every single year, the roulette wheel has more and more bust spots that get added to it as the player gets older. And Derrick Henry's roulette wheel of success last year was loaded with bust because he was entering his 28 age season. I don't care if he's built different. Sometimes that's a bad thing because he's hitting the ground harder and harder at his bigger frame. Derrick Henry, in my estimation last year, had about a 20% chance of delivering one more elite season. And while that's a pretty decent percent when you really think about it, that's not like I'm saying zero, it's not good. It wasn't good enough for me entering week 1. He had a good year. He had a really good year. I was wrong. The 20% chance slipped through. But if I had to predict this year, it's like 10. It's 5 or 10%. Is there a chance that Derrick Henry has one more elite year? Sure. But I just don't see how. I don't see how he can stay upright getting the volume that he's going to get in Tennessee if he doesn't get traded behind an awful, really a falling apart offensive line and an awful offense led by who? Throwing to who? What's going to be happening in Tennessee? Will they go get Lamar and keep Derrick Henry? Then we reassess a little bit. But this is a disaster waiting to happen if he stays in Tennessee. If he goes to Buffalo, if Henry gets traded to Buffalo for a second-round pick, which is, there's a decent chance for it, Henry probably gets spared a little more, has a better chance of staying healthy, still is a very big risk for me in round 1. But like Ekeler in round 2, I might swing back into I'll draft him and trade him mid-season game. So is Henry a total avoid at all costs in every situation? No. But is he worth the first rounder in Tennessee? Absolutely not. So until his situation changes and he goes to Buffalo, which we have to reassess, how likely is he to stay healthy in Buffalo? They won't run him as much. He'll be able to kind of stay fresher. It'll be he'll get more receptions because they'll throw to the running back more. They didn't throw to Henry enough in Tennessee, and Henry proved he can catch. He just didn't catch for the majority of his career because they didn't throw to him. It's not how they wanted to use him. They wanted to run him into the ground, which they've pretty much done, and so we'll see. But Henry in Tennessee, as it stands now, total avoid in the first round, and really total avoid in the second round for me. In the third round in Tennessee, I might get back into the mix again to draft him, to just trade him, but I'd rather just take the guy I want instead of working, all those moves. So in Tennessee, we'll address it later if he goes to Buffalo. In Tennessee, you are in the panic chamber, pal. Next player up is Alvin Kamara. Come on. I mean, look, I draft this guy probably more than anybody in our best ball drafts. It's a tradition, but he's still a huge risk. Unless he falls to round, in our leagues when we're sniping each other, sometimes I take him in round 9. I've taken him a little bit earlier than that. But in normal drafts with normal people that don't know everything that you guys know, you're absolute monsters in the best ball drafts. Everybody we draft in best ball, it's like everyone's reaching. So everybody you take in round 10 is getting taken in round 9 and so forth. But in regular human being leagues that aren't full of monsters like you, Alvin Kamara is going in round 10 and round 11 on the regular. In best ball drafts, underdog, promo code Smitty, you can get him in round 10, double-digit rounds. And honestly, I'm in at that point. I'll take Alvin Kamara in the 10th or 11th round every single time. That doesn't mean he's not in the panic chamber, though. Panic chamber doesn't mean avoid. Panic chamber means there's some serious concern. You have to approach with caution. If you approach with caution, buying or investing or holding a panic chamber player, it doesn't necessarily mean you're making a bad move. He's 100% in the panic chamber. He's 100% to be looking at league discipline. But do I trust the NFL to do the right thing? I do not. And so in round 10, I'll be in. Even for half a season, I'll be in. Panic chamber, Alvin Kamara. But one of those interesting buys. Dalvin Cook, look, we're talking about all the old dog running backs. Look at the theme so far. We got Ekeler, Henry, and now Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook is potentially on the move. A second-round pick, maybe 2 third-round picks. Maybe he doesn't even cost a second-round pick. Chicago would be crazy not to put this injury-riddled running back with a mangled shoulder into this lineup in Chicago for one season and let him run his shoulder back into the ground. Because if his ball comes out of the socket and he rips the labrum, dude still plays on it. I'm not saying he's going to be ultra effective from this point forward, but in the right spot, I would be in. If he gets traded to Chicago, I'd be in, but at the right price. If he gets traded to Cincinnati, I'd be in. If he gets traded to Buffalo to play with his brother, can you imagine that? James Cook and Dalvin Cook, Dalvin taking his brother's job, I'd be in on that too, but depends on the value. But in general, he's still in the panic chamber. We're still closing the doors because he's an injury-prone player that's dropping off. But situation can change, and situation can make a player a little more relevant than they would have been. Ekeler, Henry, Dalvin Cook, all panic chamber players, but all very, very intriguing players to draft at the right price. If they get moved, we'll address it when the time comes. Dalvin Cook in the panic chamber. Next player to talk about, we'll go Godwin and Evans. I mean, what more can you say than they don't have the proper quarterback setup to make these guys do what they've been doing over the course of the last couple of years, and they're just going to take away from each other. I'll take Evans if he falls far enough. I'll take Godwin if he falls far enough. We're talking about like wide receiver 3 material. And if that's the case, I'll take him. It doesn't change the fact that they're in the panic chamber. Next player, Justin Herbert. This could go 100 different ways right now. Yes, we're going to close the door. We're going to close the door on him. Why? Ekeler might be on the move. They might trade away Ekeler. What they do at 21 overall will determine everything. Because this guy Herbert, if we go back to the NFL draft board, this guy Herbert, he may be getting Jackson Smith and Jigba here. I doubt that he falls, but maybe they trade up for him. So this pick, maybe they use it for Quentin Johnston there, or Zay Flowers, or Addison, or they trade up and they get Jackson Smith and Jigba. Or maybe they try and take Bijan Robinson. Maybe Bijan falls to 21. They trade Ekeler away. They draft Bijan Robinson. All these things are going to affect Herbert. But if the team doesn't address wide receiver and they get rid of Ekeler, I'm going to be so out on Herbert this year. Doesn't mean I won't love him for the future or circle back around. But Herbert's ability to get out of the panic chamber or to be in a position where I even want to draft him is totally dependent on the NFL draft and what happens with Ekeler in the coming weeks. But panic chamber until further notice. Next player, Lamar Jackson. He's certainly in the panic chamber because he's a bust candidate in Baltimore. And as of this moment, he's not going to play anywhere else until we hear that he's not playing anywhere else. So, of course, we're closing the door in the panic chamber. But where he goes might pull him out. The problem is we don't even have, if we look at the teams that even can participate in trying to acquire him right now, which, again, you must have a first rounder in 2023 and a first rounder in 2024 to even offer an offer sheet. And then after the NFL draft, the teams like Miami Dolphins and Niners who don't have a first rounder, then they can offer an offer sheet if he's still around, because then you will, technically speaking, have a first rounder in the 2 immediate drafts because the draft will be over. So we have the Niners, we have the Dolphins, and we have the Colts potentially, I think, in play if Lamar's still around after the NFL draft. And if the Colts end up just shocking everybody and they don't go Levis, they go defense or they go offensive line or they do something crazy, they trade down and get Jackson Smith and Jigba. If I was in control of this Colts team, I would trade this pick down just a little bit, take Jackson Smith and Jigba, and then I would trade my 2024 and 2025 first rounders or relinquish them on an offer sheet for Lamar Jackson, and I'd have Lamar Jackson, Jackson Smith and Jigba, one of the best route runners coming out of college, or the best route runner coming out of college. That's how I would build this Colts team. But as it stands right now, we've got a small amount of teams that are in play for Lamar. Washington. We've got potentially, what do we say? New England. New England's a wild card. I would like New England. I think New England would be pretty interesting for Lamar. Tennessee, I hate Tennessee for Lamar. Even if they kept Henry, I hate Tennessee for Lamar. It's no different than Baltimore, especially if Baltimore can draft a wide receiver here. If they take Zay Flowers, I like Baltimore with Zay Flowers, a bust situation for me. Year over year, Lamar in Baltimore is a bust because they don't support him. But I would circle back a little bit and reevaluate a little bit and like him more than Tennessee if he could get a wide receiver at this spot. But Tennessee's garbage. Washington is interesting. I like Washington. New England is interesting. And then it's really like a dead zone. It really is, unless the Colts, the Niners, or the Dolphins after the NFL draft, if Lamar's still available, would be good locations. So until then, we have to put Lamar Jackson in the panic chamber and close the doors, because we don't have any way of knowing what's going to happen. And it all looks bleak until it doesn't. So Lamar is in panic chamber mode. Christian Watson. You guys know what I'm going to say here. You know what I'm going to say here. Is Christian Watson panic chamber material? A lot of people are saying that. People are floating his name out there to say, hey, Smitty, this is a panic chamber guy, right? Are we worried about Christian Watson? People have been begging me to throw Christian Watson in the panic chamber and discuss it and determine whether we're going to keep him in the panic chamber or pull him out. Because that's what I do. You are panicked on him, I throw him in, and then I shoot down the idea that we're closing the door on this guy, or I tell you, yeah, let's close the door. We're not closing the door. Panic chamber material? No, he's not. Okay, we're going to take him out. It's disrespectful to even have him linger inside the panic chamber. This is an absolute monster in the making right here. He's been fast-tracked by Aaron Rodgers, and he's being handed over to Jordan Love, who I think is going to be competent enough to make Christian Watson, continue to make Christian Watson develop. And so, yeah, Jordan Love will help Watson develop. But if, let's say, Jordan Love was starting last year, I don't know that Christian Watson would have developed into the player we see before us right now. Honestly, if Jordan Love was starting last year and Aaron Rodgers walked away or whatever, Christian Watson, we wouldn't even be talking about him. We'd be like, oh, is he a Treylon Burks? Maybe. Like Treylon Burks, we're all like, okay, I don't know what to expect. Treylon Burks could be good, I guess. That's how we would be talking about Christian Watson. Had Aaron Rodgers not fast-tracked Christian Watson's career. Christian Watson walks into 2023 like a 3-year veteran. A 3 to 4 year veteran. That's how much Aaron Rodgers brought him along and how quickly he brought him along. He's being handed now over to a guy named Jordan Love who's going to take care of him, feed him properly, and if this team, the Green Bay Packers, is down and throwing a lot, that's good for Christian Watson. Christian Watson is 100% one of my dark horse top 8 to 10 wide receivers. I try not to rank him and Olave too high because I want people to still get value. But if I had to predict anybody that's outside of my top 8, in my top 8 to 14, Olave, who's right on the borderline of top 10, quite honestly, he's my number, down deep if I'm on the clock. And I'm going to do an update to my wide receiver video because I think Olave should have been number 9. I'll be honest with you. Looking back at the video, I should have taken Waddle out. I know a lot of people are going to be upset about that love Waddle, but I think Olave should have been number 9. And so there'll be an update on that at some point. But Olave and Christian Watson are my secret weapon top 8 to 10 wide receivers. These are guys that I love drafting as in the 4th round in Best Ball Underdog Fantasy promo code Smitty. You get on over to Underdog. They'll match up to $100 in your first deposit, won't they? And I'll drop the link right now so they can insert the promo code for you. That link right there. It's also in the description of every video. That link right there, I just dropped in the live chat. Click on it. Get ready because we do drafts every other night at midnight. And if you don't get signed up ahead of time and get that bonus match, you probably will miss out on the drafting. But Christian Watson goes like in round 4. Christian Watson goes like in round 4. I mean, you guys understand how much of a value that is? I feel like he's an absolute monster in round 4. This could be a top 8 to 10 wide receiver. He is not a panic chamber guy. He's 100% safe. And I'm going to put him down here all nice and snug and tight. And we're going to take care of him. Don't even consider this guy a risk, especially at his cost of entry. Davante Adams and Josh Jacobs. These two guys are not only in the panic chamber discussion, they're probably going to live in the panic chamber from this moment in time through the entirety of the 2023 season. There couldn't have been a worse unfolding for these two guys in Las Vegas. They were handed Jimmy Garoppolo. Imagine thinking Jimmy Garoppolo is an upgrade over Derek Carr. Then imagine on top of that, you trade away Darren Waller. The Raiders were just eliminated from the playoffs. The moment Jimmy G put pen to paper, memes everywhere exploded. Raiders eliminated from the playoffs already. Just all over the place. Meme city. Just meme city. Jimmy Garoppolo injured himself signing his contract. We heard that meme all over all day today. They're warranted memes. They're warranted memes. Jimmy's not going to stay healthy, number 1. Number 2, he can't facilitate the football to all these weapons. Number 3, he doesn't have the Niners offense to mask and hide his deficiencies anymore. He can't throw downfield. Adams is a burner and a stretch the field type of guy. Jimmy can't do that. And unless they deploy a wide back role for Adams, maybe they try it. There's no reason to believe this works out at all for Davante Adams. Wouldn't be shocked if he had a barely 1,000-yard season if he doesn't get hurt catching footballs from the hospital pass delivery person that is Jimmy G. He throws hospital balls. You know what that means? He throws balls up in the air where the defender's going to get put on the ground and need to go to the hospital because they try and catch this lofty delivery that hangs in the air because Jimmy G doesn't have the zip or the potential to throw a 20-yard ball. low and below the goalpost. It's literally, this is Jimmy G's worst thing that he does is throwing a deep ball. And you got a guy in Adams that's a deep ball catcher. And you got a guy in Jacobs who is now going to be the focal point of a defense. Jimmy is the worst thing that could have happened to these two guys right here. And Jacobs is going to struggle to get his big contract after the season. Adams is going to probably, if I had to predict, one or both these guys are going to get banged up at some point late in the year and not return. It's going to be like Cooper Kupp. When Cooper Kupp didn't return, for good reason, the Rams were out of it. They couldn't win anyway. They weren't going to rush Cooper Kupp back. I don't know that it'll be where the team doesn't rush these guys back. I think Adams or Jacobs are both at some point just, Adams requests a trade midseason, if not before the season starts. I just feel like this is absolute disaster to the 10th degree. And so for that reason, Adams is out of my top 10 wide receivers. I'm not saying it wouldn't take him at some point around that range, even just to trade him. I'm not saying he can't have 1,000 yards or 1,100 yards and 7 touchdowns, which would be a disappointing year for Adams. But 7 touchdowns and 1,000 yards, I mean, that's still a starting player for you. I'm not saying Adams is total garbage. I'm saying cost of entry comparatively to where you're going to draft him, if you're going to draft him at all, you're throwing away, you're leaving a lot of value on the table drafting Adams instead of Olave. Draft Olave over Adams. Draft Chris Olave over Davante Adams in 2023 and thank me later. Because Adams is not going to deliver what you think he's going to deliver. He's probably going to get hurt, or he's going to be disgruntled, or it's just going to be awful football all year long. Jacobs is not going to be worth your cost of entry. Go after a Jahmyr Gibbs over Jacobs. Go after a wide receiver and take a Jahmyr Gibbs later. Go after a wide receiver where you might take Jacobs and go get Charbonnet and pair him with another player that you can grab as your running back instead of banking on Jacobs. This is a disaster waiting to happen. Absolutely, both of these guys are 100% in the panic chamber. And that's all she wrote for the Panic Chamber episode 1. Let me get the right screen on. That was the Panic Chamber episode 1 for the 2023 season. We need to do that like once a week. We probably won't make it as long because, that was 41 minutes and we had a lot of players to cover, but we'll cover the Panic Chamber from like a 2 or 3 or 4 player perspective once a week going forward. And we're going to definitely be doing that early and often. Okay. So phone lines are open. Dial in.
Call into the show. Call into the show.
We're going to do the voicemails right now. If you want to become a part of the voicemail leaving gang, go to my Instagram at The Fantasy Football Show, okay? And click on the subscribe button. If you do that for $4.99, I'll put you in a private chat. DM me after you do it, after you subscribe. I'll put you in a private chat, okay? And then I'm gonna be able to play. You can drop a voicemail anytime you want, and your boy Smitty will play it. Here we go, Terry.
I think you could pick him up in the 7th or 8th round of drafts and be of value.
Oh, I didn't see the beginning.
Hey, Smitty, what do you think of Rashard Penny?
Okay, Rashad Penny. I don't love Rashad Penny. I'm not banking on Rashad Penny. I'll play the rest of his question here. Hold on.
Going to the Eagles. I think you could pick him up in the 7th.
I think the 7th or 8th round is too high. Like, would I take him as a bench running back option? Sure. But do I feel like I'd much rather have other players in the 6th and 7th round? Yeah, a lot of other players. Kyle Pitts sometimes goes in that 6th, 7th round territory. Pacheco goes in that range, surprisingly. Like, those are much better players. So I'm not on the Penny train. I think he's just going to get hurt. He always gets hurt. Even last year, everyone's like, "Don't worry, he'll get hurt." He got hurt. Penny's in a walking injury.
Hey, Smitty, what are we thinking of Gesicki going to New England? I think he's going to be their number 1 over Austin Hooper. How about you?
Yeah, I like Gesicki there, but New England is just I don't know. They need to go after Lamar because Mac Jones is not it. I think Zappe starts games. I'm just not interested in any New England player but Rhamondre. Even over, I don't like Juju. It's Rhamondre or nobody at this point until they make a bold move at quarterback, and I don't know that they will. Bruce.
Hey, Smitty, what do we make of this Jonah Williams of the Bengals now requesting a trade? What do you think of that?
I can barely hear him. Bruce, leave that again.
Hey, Smitty, I just left an article above. It says Kirk Cousins and Zadarius Smith of the Vikings to the Texans for the 2 and the 12. Do you think this is going to happen? Are you rejecting this, or what's your opinion on this?
You've just been Smitty disapproved.
There's no way this Caserio guy, no offense, Ron, put your earmuffs on for a second. There's no way Caserio is going after Kirk Cousins when they're doing a total rebuild and they're doing a proper rebuild. They're doing a very, very, very solid rebuild. They got the number 2 overall pick. They'll never be in this position again for a very long time to have their choice of the quarterback they want. They could like somebody next year better or something. I get that whole argument. But the Texans are doing it right. They got the 12 pick. They could take Jackson Smith and Jigba there, or Quentin Johnson or Addison, and they could take Stroud, Bryce Young, or Anthony Richardson at number 2 overall. They're in prime position. I don't buy these rumors for a second. It's hogwash to me that they would consider trading for Kirk Cousins when they're in a position to build around a young rookie and their entire team is building around youth and starting over and starting fresh. They're not going backwards. That is not even close to. But I appreciate you, Brucey, and I don't mind you bringing it up because guess what, Bruce, you bring things up so we can either shoot them down or prove them.
I'd give them Cook for free if this really did happen.
Yeah, no, it's not happening. Okay, so let's see here. I think the voicemails are done in that group. Let me go into the next one. Those are all. We're all Kevin. Did I do Kevin? Kevin, your voice message won't play. Kevin, I'm going to tell Kevin he's got to relieve it. Let's see here. Kevin, re-ask. It won't play. All right. And I think that does it for the voicemail. So let's open up the phone line.
Call into the show. Call into the show.
I'd take Waddle over Olave personally, but could see other side for sure. Kilpatrick, hope everything's going good. I don't know if you saw the prayer messages, even at last night's midnight show. If you go look at the end, we're still throwing prayer emojis whenever we leave the show. Hope the wife is doing better, or you have any updates at all. I would take Olave over Waddle. I think if push came to shove. I put Waddle in my most recent wide receiver ranking video that just dropped in a premiere. But I was honest in the premiere saying, you know what? After looking at it, sometimes when you do something too, like people think, oh, your things don't change on the fly. They certainly do. Like I could do a top 15 wide receiver ranking today, and it might be different tomorrow. But I also sometimes do things strategically to make sure we're not overhyping everybody and their mother. But Olave, honestly, is probably my 9 or 10 wide receiver. So when we talked about these wide receivers, let me show you. I'm actually going to show you the ranking, and then we'll just go ahead and re-rank it right here on the screen. I'll say as much as I like Waddle, I'm going to take Waddle out, and I'm going to put Olave in. So let me see if I can find my Olave graphic. Where is my Olave graphic? So we're going to put Olave 9. If I had to redo the video right this very second, I would do this. Olave, because I don't really care if it's high, and he's going high anyway. You know, people are, as soon as that car trade happened, it's been or car signing happened, it's been nothing but Olave talk. Let me see if I can fix this 1 second. There we go. So Olave number 9. That's kind of how I feel. I took Waddle out. You could put Waddle at 10 with A.J. Brown as a tie. And Watson, I feel like Watson's very, very close to this, to this 10, 11, 12 territory. So Olave 9, and then A.J. Brown and Waddle and Watson are all real, real close for number 10 overall. So this would probably be my gut instinct ranking right here. If I was to re-crank out that video this very second. What's up, Ron?
Hey, what's up, Smitty?
Oh, not much. Just showing the wide receiver ranking here and saying that, you know what, I kind of wish I put Olave 9 instead of Waddle. I just tried not to have all these. I didn't want to have the entire top 10 ranking be Wilson, Olave, Watson. I know you want Pickens in there, like all those. It's just it'd be too many of them to throw in. I still feel like Diggs and Lamb and AJ Brown and Waddle, they all deserve respect. But at the end of the day, push comes to shove. I was even doing a draft earlier, and I took Olave, and Waddle was there. So honestly, Olave needs to be 9. Whether I don't want to like create a panic of increasing his value or something, he's already going like in the second round. Sometimes it just depends on what draft you're in. I've seen him go at the top of 3. I've seen him go at 15 overall. But I don't want to feed into that. But it's already there. It's already there.
The one I don't agree with is St. Brown. He had 1,100 yards, only 7 touchdowns. Waddle blew him out. AJ blew him out of the water.
He was hurt.
I was St. Brown, but his conditions hasn't changed. He's still got golf as the quarterback, and now he's going to have a more healthy Jameson Williams up there. And I've never put him above Waddle. I don't care if Waddle's the second receiver on Miami at all. He's just as good. 11 touchdowns, almost 1,500 yards, or what was it? 13 or 1,400. It was like close to 15. A.J. Brown was the same thing. 11 touchdowns, almost 1,500 yards. I don't see how you put. Well, I mean, I know it's all your choice and whatever, but I just couldn't put it.
Well, Ron, St. Brown was hurt. St. Brown was hurt, and then he played banged up for a string of games. So I think it's a little bit.
Everybody, though, you can say that about Higgins. Higgins had like 1,200 yards last year and several touchdowns. He had like 8 touchdowns, and he was hurt, and he missed games too. So, I mean, you could say hurt for all these different receivers. I mean, yeah, Chase was hurt also.
Yeah, and that's why we're factoring it in. You know what I mean? Like Chase, if we were to go off of last year's stats, Chase is the number 1, but we're all anticipating him to stay healthy. I get it. Look, St. Brown's very questionable to a lot of people. I'm sure A.J. Brown is either someone's number 7 or number 14. Some people hate A.J. Brown in the top 10. Waddle, to me, I'd rather have Olave in. I could put Waddle at 9 and put Olave at 8. You know, that they're all very, very close. I mean, when I'm doing this, Ron, I'm sitting there going, I'm not like, oh, this is absolutely 100%. You know, it's definitely waiver. It's waiver city. It's waiver city from 8 to 12.
You have your personal preferences. That's fine. I'm just debating my side of it with you, and I'm just telling you how I feel about it. I'm not saying that you're wrong because it's your ranking.
Someone said you're calling in from your printer today.
My printer.
It's kind of choppy. It sounds like you're calling in from, but I get what you're saying, but at the same time, my defense is for St. Brown is that he was injured and he played hampered for a string of games. So honestly, if St. Brown didn't get hurt, and I know you could argue that with different players, but he would have had 1,400 yards and 14 touchdowns. He was on fire. He eventually returned to form, but he played for a string of games banged up. So I think there's definitely an argument to make that you can't even use St. Brown's stats from last year because they aren't telling of what he's really capable of doing. But at the same time, like I described in the video, I mean, I'm sure you saw it, or if you haven't yet, I talk about how there's a risk involved with St. Brown, that Jameson Williams and St. Brown are going to eat into each other's workload. The thing about it for me, though, is that I don't think Jameson Williams is there yet. He's still got to develop as a rookie. He was a rookie last year, but he really wasn't. So he's going to come in and have to get used to things. He's still probably trying to get to 100% because his ACL tear was so late. This is really for sure his first year back from his ACL tear. Similar to when Cam Akers tore his Achilles and he came back for like a couple games and people are like, okay, this is his second year coming back from Achilles the next year. No, it wasn't. That was the full first year coming back from an Achilles. And that's why Akers didn't do well. But wide receivers, coming off ACL tears, you know, it's Cooper Kupp did very well, but Cooper Kupp didn't have his amazing season that year. It was the next year. So I think Jameson Williams' ability to I think, compete with St. Brown for the number 1 spot in Detroit will be like mid-season, like week 10, week 12. I think about where everybody expected Jameson Williams to blow up last year is where he'll potentially do that next year, because he's going to take time to get there. But I was always very cautious on Jameson Williams because he had no chance to come back and be elite as a rookie coming off an ACL tear that was that late. Like at the combine, he had just had the surgery right around the combine. So he was definitely like, imagine having ACL surgery right now. That's what Jameson Williams essentially was looking at last year. And so Ada calling, I missed your call, Ada. But I mean I agree with you that it's debatable. Like St. Brown at 8, it's debatable, 100%. But Waddle, I don't regret putting Waddle in my top 10 in the video I just dropped like an hour ago. I'm just saying I'd rather have Olave and Waddle spot. At the end of the day. So this is my ranking as of this moment. I'm changing it. But I love St. Brown. I disagree that we can use last year's numbers. I think his numbers could be bigger, way bigger. I think he'll be healthy this year. He's a machine.
The numbers are the numbers. You can't. I mean, the numbers are just. There are the numbers. Waddle earned his numbers. He earned his touchdowns. Just like everybody else earned what they got, and players get injured all the time, and Waddle didn't get injured, and Brown did. That's too bad for Brown, but I mean, you kind of got to look at it like it doesn't matter if Waddle is the second wide receiver just because Tariq got there. Before Tariq got there, Waddle was the number 1 receiver, and he showed it, and he kept his numbers up there even after Tariq showed up. So I give Waddle respect, and trust me, I don't have a lot of Waddle because I don't trust. I don't trust Tua, but that's where I would probably.
Oh yeah, we do have to circle back to Swift. Somebody said we didn't talk about Swift during the panic chamber, and they're right. I totally blinked on it. We'll have to go back and do that in a second. but Ron, I get what you're saying. I disagree, but that's okay. I think St. Brown's top. Yeah, St. Brown's top 5 capable, but I think he's safe at 8 to 12. I don't blame anybody having St. Brown 12. I don't blame anybody having St. Brown 7 or 8. I don't blame anybody having Olave 6 or having Olave 12. I don't blame anybody having. It's very, very. You're in a waiver territory. Challenge anybody to rank their top 15 wide receivers. I guarantee you get to like 8 or 9, you start going crap. I don't know what I want. I don't know what I want.
I Eric go in the first round in best ball, but I have yet to see Amon go in the first round in best ball.
Well, that's why I rank him 8. He's not going to be a first rounder if he's the 8th wide receiver, but I think
he's close.
I see him going the second round. Yeah, I see him going the second round a lot, and I think it's it's risky. The higher you draft him, the more risky it is. I'm not going to sit here and act like St. Brown doesn't have risk because of Jameson. Also, Goff, who we give Goff his flowers, but you can't assume Goff is going to absolutely be fire every single year moving forward. We've seen it before. Matt Ryan was an absolute monster one year, and I remember when I thought Ryan was going to take a dive coming off of one big year, everybody just ripped me to shreds. Matt Ryan, how could you have Matt Ryan ranked so low? And I think that was when I started my YouTube channel, and Matt Ryan just tanked. Like, this happens all the time where a guy's kind of overplaying, over-delivering. Goff's 100% over-delivering. I'm not saying Goff can't continue to over-deliver. I think the Lions would be the smartest team to go after Lamar. And they're another team after the 2023 NFL draft. Once the draft capital is already spent and it's in the rearview mirror, and then Lamar is still available, you offer your 2024 and 2025 first rounders via the offer sheet process, and you go get Lamar and you bring him in. I have concerns about Goff, which is why I might have a wavering, thought process with St. Brown at 8, 9, 10, 11, anywhere in that territory, because he's got to support 2 wide receivers. I don't know Goff is capable of doing that year over year. 1 year, like I said in my video, let's give him his flowers. He kind of earned one more shot. We'll take it year by year with Goff. But I certainly am not excited about Goff like I am other quarterbacks. Like even Derek Carr. I'm more excited about Derek Carr than Goff. And some people might say Goff's way more proven than Carr, blah, blah, blah. But that's just my gut. I think Carr's been hampered and put in a box in Las Vegas, and he's going to absolutely open up with a top 10 defense supporting him, giving him good field position. I'm just not into Goff. So that's one thing that holds St. Brown and Jameson back in Dynasty for me. Like, St. Brown doesn't increase in Dynasty. He drops because of Goff. But if Lamar were traded there, and Lamar's not going to make – there's some concerns there too about can Lamar support Jameson and St. Brown. You know, we don't really know. So, like, there would be a conversation we'd have to have about that. Okay, we're excited about Lamar, just like we're always excited about a chief running back. And then when we really break it down, there's still a lot of red flags with chief running backs. There's still a lot of red flags with Amon-Ra St. Brown, you know, getting handed Lamar Jackson. Just like we're excited about Henry and Ekeler and Cook going to Buffalo. You know, it sounds so exciting, but we do, if it ever happens, we do need to, like, sit and have an honest, unbiased conversation and say, okay, we think this is good, but Buffalo hasn't yet, and they haven't had a good running back for a while, so there's an argument to make that if they got a Henry, they would use him, but there's also an argument to make that we don't really know what they would do, and they're not necessarily the best place historically for a running back the last handful of years. A lot of things to consider. Ada, you're live on the Fantasy Football Show.
Hold on, let me finish my chip.
I'm sorry, I'm eating food.
All right, sorry.
That's right. Take your time, Ada. We're live. That's okay.
He's eating his lunch.
So
All day.
Enjoy your meal, Ada. Don't let us bother you.
I'm just thinking now.
Oh, okay.
I mean, at the same time, like, you have, you know, St. Brown and Nate, like, over AJ Brown, and it's the kind of thing where it's like, you know, you believe in Hurts more than Goff, right?
Yeah.
You know, those kind of things.
Yeah.
Honestly, even Lamb, I feel like Lamb could get thrown in that mix of, you know, being shifted around.
I hear you. I mean, look, like in a different example that kind of supports why we wouldn't let the quarterback necessarily sway is, like, you know, you look at someone like Jefferson. He's got Ron, put your earmuffs on. Similar Kirk Cousins who did what he did. He deserves his flowers. Like Goff, you gotta heed the road to him for one more year. Like, you have to let Cousins, you know, throw again and say, hey, like, I trust him. But from, like, a long-term perspective, I don't think anybody in here but Ron is going to be super amped about Kirk Cousins for the next 4 or 5 years. Like, it's 1 to 2 years.
No, I am. I hope the Vikings keep him for 10.
Okay, well, you and Ron are together on that. But like, me personally, I'm not. I'm not excited about Kirk Cousins for the long term at all. I like him for 1 to 2 more years, and so Jamar Chase has a much better quarterback situation. But there's still an argument to make that JJ's still the number 1 overall player because he's so good, he's so dynamic. So circling back to your point, when we talk about Goff, not loving Goff, St. Brown, and then you look at AJ Brown loving Hurts, I don't think it always influences too much. It can when things are equal, but it doesn't necessarily make one wide receiver better than another just because his quarterback's better. It's more of one of those added bonuses that helps, like, make a decision if things are teeter-tottering on even. But, like, I feel like, you know, even like Cooper Kupp, who's got Stafford, and there's a lot of question marks around that. You're still not ranking AJ Brown ahead of Cooper Kupp, you know, because of the quarterback situations. But it's a good point. It's a good point of topic, and it does make me waver in Dynasty, like I said earlier. Brown is not number 8 in Dynasty. Brown's more of the 10 to 12, 10 to 13 range in Dynasty because guys like Christian Watson climb up. Olave, AJ Brown's still there. I mean, Devontae Smith's hard to keep out of the top 10 because, I mean, he was just a top, like, 6 wide receiver. And A.J. Brown with his knee injury history, I could even see putting Waddle at 10 and putting A.J. Brown at 11 because I worry about A.J. Brown's knee injuries and Devontae Smith. If A.J. Brown misses 4 or 5 games, let's say, due to some knee issues, and that meniscus stuff is no joke. You start cutting out of the meniscus. Where's my knee model? You start cutting out of the meniscus, the padding there, it only puts your knee off kilter. and you end up having more and more meniscus problems. Whenever you have a meniscus tear, a significant meniscus tear, it's thought of as being worse than an actual clean ACL tear. Like, from a structural perspective, a clean ACL tear without any meniscus damage, you heal it, can be better long-term than having substantial meniscus tear. So, like, A.J. Brown's he's at risk of knee injuries his entire career going forward. Imagine if Devontae Smith started 5 or 6 games as the number 1 wide receiver. He could crack this top 10 very easily. So, the 7 to 15 is so easy to argue. It's fun to argue it. I don't mind you guys coming in, and Ron, I don't care if you say Waddle should be there. It's a healthy debate, and I love it. But I certainly could push back and say, I like it, I don't like it. I could argue for it. I could flip the script on myself and argue against my own stance. The only thing is I already changed my mind after my video posted. I'm already arguing with my own video 1.5 hours after it dropped, wanting Olave number 9 instead of Waddle.
At least this time they come in and say, "Are you crazy?"
Yeah. Ada, why do you want Kirk Cousins for 10 years?
Oh, I'm a Bears fan.
Oh, okay. So that was a knock. I thought you were coming in with
absolutely.
I thought you were coming in with a positive take on Kirk Cousins, and I'm like, you and Ron just became best friends. Now you became enemies. I see.
We were enemies from the time that he sniped me. I've been out for him. I've been looking for Ada. I'm sniping campaign out for him.
Goff
it's
dropped.
Not even Tyler Scott. It's not even just Tyler Scott. It was that Burrow in round 2 too.
Hey, Goff dropped this super chat. Thank you, Golf, for the super chat. Do we like Hopkins as a top 10 wide receiver on a top 5 team?
No.
The weird thing about it is Hopkins is going so high. He's going in the 3rd round in pretty much every best ball and mock draft I've seen, and it's too high for me. I like Hopkins, but he's like a 4th or 5th round, like, gem for 1 year. I don't know that he's got anything left but 1 year, but he's like a 4th or 5th round potential, steal. But he's not going there. He's going in the 3rd round. Sometimes I've seen him go at the tail end of 2, turning into round 3, and I just, not even knowing where he's going, it's such a risky proposition. If he went to Chicago, I like him there. You got DJ Moore there, so we don't really know how that'll go, and if Fields can feed both of them. But I like him as a potential, like, I don't know, a 10 to 15 wide receiver, but one I draft outside the top 10. Like, could he be a top 10 guy? Maybe, but I draft him outside of top 10.
I think DK flirts with top 10 this
Sure.
year, if not us in the top 10. I think he's going to have a lot better year because him and Geno started building that chemistry really good towards the end of the year, and I think it's going to flow over to this. And I'm not a big Seattle fan, but I think DK's going to have a substantial better year than he had last year.
Devontae Smith.
Yeah, for that matter, I'd rather have DK over D-Hop.
So right here, the guys that have missed the cut these are my rankings. And again, I changed them from an hour and a half ago when I had Waddle at 9. I put Olave there. Now Waddle's outside the top 10, but you could put Waddle at tied for 10 easily. But the guys that missed the top 10 now are Waddle, Higgins, Devontae Adams, Devonta Smith, Christian Watson, Deebo Samuel, Drake London, who easily could be a top 12 wide receiver. I think the value right now outside the top 12, the guy that screams, I am a top 10 wide receiver, what in the hell are you guys thinking, is Drake London. Even with Ritter, I understand it. Look at Olave did last year. We still would love Olave, even if Derek Carr wasn't in New Orleans. We still love Olave. So Drake London's very similar. I think people are on a down, like, depressive, like, reactive state because Lamar didn't go to Atlanta, and we were all kind of thinking that was going to happen. So the one guy screaming, the 2 guys screaming, I am a top 10 wide receiver. What in the hell are you thinking? Are Christian Watson and Drake London, of course, both moon men. those are two guys that they're going to prove to us that we're ridiculous for not even having them in the top 10. That's how much I love those guys. DK certainly. DK certainly, Debo certainly in the conversation of the top 12 to 15. Devonta Smith is certainly in the conversation. I mean, what disrespect to not have Devonta Smith in here. He's number 6 in a lot of formats. I mean, it's so hard. It's hard. You're always going to be pissing somebody off when you do these rankings. There's always going to be somebody in the comments going, "Oh, this is stupid. Where's Devonta Smith?" Okay, let's say I was listen to somebody and I'm not like that. I don't need jerk react to anybody. I do what I want when I want. It's my show. But let's say I folded like a chair and I'm like, "Okay, you're right. I'll put Devonta Smith at 10." And then all of a sudden the next comment, "You idiot, where's AJ Brown?" "Okay, I'll put AJ Brown there." Then the next person is like, "You moron, where's Debo Samuel? He's top 5." And then, so this is it's common to see everybody all over the map, especially once you get outside like the top. As soon as we got to 3, it was like, and it's natural and it's fine. I don't care that anybody disagrees. But it was like right away in the live chat. It's like, I like Hill over Cup. And then the divide just gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger as you go down.
Yeah, you love the debate and you love the different takes, though.
Yeah, no, I do. I do. Phone lines are open, by the way. If anybody wants to dial it on into the phone, here, let me put the phone number on screen. 1 second, guys. Here's the.
I was gonna say to the.
Call into the show.
Sorry, the other topic
call
was
into the show.
like Foreman and Herbert.
I'm sorry. What at it?
Oh no, just the other topic too. We need to talk about something is the Foreman and Herbert, like Khalil Herbert.
Yeah. Good one. Let's put real quickly, if you don't mind hanging tight, guys, and just muting, and let's go back to the panic chamber. We got to do Swift and Khalil Herbert. Let's do Swift and Khalil Herbert. So let's open up the panic chamber one more time.
You are entering the panic chamber, brought to you by Grindhouse, vintage movie tees and hoodies.
It is time to reassess a couple players that I forgot to. We'll put them on screen here. Number 1 is DeAndre Swift. I forgot to panic chamber Swift. I'm sorry. He's even in the graphic. I'm ashamed of myself. Here we go. Swift is on the board here. And number 2 was Khalil Herbert. So Khalil Herbert as well. Let's put Swift in the panic chamber and let's close the door. Okay, good show. See you all later. Okay, no, let's talk about it real quickly. Okay, so Khalil Herbert. Swift. Swift is a panic chamber lock for the entire 2023 season. 1,000% living in the panic chamber the entire year because he's an injury-prone player where his team is already decided. We're going to limit him more than ever walking into 2023. Now, being in the panic chamber doesn't mean you don't have value. It just means you have to tread lightly. You have to be careful. You have to look at this player from a different lens. And make sure you're not overspending and you understand that there's risk. I love DeAndre Swift if he falls into my running back. I'd even say like late flex to 4th running back spot. I don't know that I'm going to get him there. We've seen him go as high as round 6 lately, but I think the addition of Monty is going to take some time to hit ADP data. I should have a good update in the next couple days for you on Underdog. And I'll be able to tell you, we're going to do an ADP show, weekly ADP show, where I break down the ADP. We look at the guys that look good. We look at the guys that look bad. We look at the movers. And so I'm going to do that every single week. We're going to try and do an ADP show. Swift is certainly on the decline, and where he levels out will determine his cost of entry, which will determine whether he's a steal or not. But I would definitely say he could win you a league if he falls to the right spot, but he could also lose you a league if you're drafting him in like round 4 or 5. Like if you're drafting him in round 4 or 5, you're putting yourself in a very vulnerable position. 100% panic chamber material, closing the door, but with intrigue as to where his ADP will level. And I certainly want him on a few of my teams as my running back 3, 4, 5. Like obviously you're not going to probably get him as your running back 5, but we don't know where his ADP could tank to with the Monty signing. So in the panic chamber, most certainly. And then finally, Khalil Herbert. It's weird that I'm getting a lot of requests for Khalil Herbert to be in the panic chamber to discuss whether he's panic chamber material, when I kind of looked at the Deonta Foreman news as good news. Like, when they signed Deonta Foreman, I celebrated. And instead, I even saw videos. I even saw a bunch of like reports and written stuff, tweets and comments everywhere where people are like, oh, well, there goes Khalil Herbert's lone starting job, chance, his big chance. How is I like Foreman. I'm not saying Foreman's not a good running back, but how is Foreman? You have to have backup running backs. Like, it's so funny to me when a team signs an RB or doesn't trade one away, like in the case of Zeke Elliott. And Ron talked about this earlier. Malik Davis has certainly proved he could be the backup, but getting rid of Zeke Elliott almost 100% means that they're going to go get another RB. So who do they go get? Is it going to be a late rookie to pair with Malik Davis? And they go ahead and roll with Malik and this rookie as the backup, and they'll have a little competition and whatever? Or do they go get a Bigsby? Does a Sean Tucker fall? Does Kendre Miller fall? Does one of our exciting rookie sleeper running backs fall to the Dallas Cowboys? Does Jimmy, do they potentially go get, does Jerry Jones go get, I call him Jimmy. Does Jerry Jones go get a Bijan? Does he get a Charbonnet? We don't know what Jerry Jones is capable of doing. He loves weapons, and he likes wide receivers, but he also loves weapons. Jahmyr Gibbs might excite him, and you never know. You never know what Jerry's going to do. So I think Zeke staying in Dallas to kind of prove a point over on this side and swing back to Khalil Herbert, Zeke staying in Dallas would have been good. I would have loved the shell of a running back named Zeke Elliott to stay versus them bringing in a fresh and hungry Sean Tucker, or Kareem Hunt. What if they bring in Kareem Hunt? Because Kareem Hunt's getting no offers right now. What if they sign Kareem Hunt to a very low contract and he comes in now to be the between the tackles workhorse? I still will love Pollard, but that's certainly worse than having Zeke stay. And I think some people just lose sight of that simple way of looking at things. So when Foreman signed and people got upset about Foreman signing with the Bears to potentially take away from Herbert, this is the best thing that could have happened to Khalil Herbert. They were bringing in somebody. Imagine them bringing in Kareem Hunt. And Foreman also maybe eliminates, not for sure, but kind of trends in the direction of this team's probably not trading for a big name RB like Cook or Ekeler or Henry because they just signed Foreman to a big enough contract to where it makes it, okay, that's a waste if you're going to then trade for Derrick Henry. So Foreman was the best thing that could have happened to Khalil Herbert. And for that reason, Khalil Herbert's not in the panic chamber, and the Foreman situation is absolutely fantastic. That is the panic chamber. Now back to the phone calls. Ada, did that answer your question on Khalil Herbert?
Yeah, it did. I mean, it's just like you said, it was interesting because there were so many videos or so many people talking about that. I mean, even I was kind of surprised. Like, as a fan, I like the signing just because it was, it secures our running back room and, give Herbert a break and we have a solid backup. It was just interesting to, see the fan base kind of, split on that aspect of it fantasy-wise. So that's why I was like, yeah. I was kind of trying to ask because I hadn't seen that with other, signings like that.
Yeah. I'm totally on board. Totally on board with the Foreman signing. I just think it gives Khalil Herbert the best shot at not seeing a big name player come in. Same thing with Tony Pollard. Look, Tony Pollard, I'm going to have 2 videos coming out. 2 or 3 more videos coming out. One came out on Bijan. I'm going to do a bold prediction series. Certainly going to include a majority of Moon or Mars men, but just restating some things and repredicting some things. But I'm going to try and make 1 or 2 of them not Moon or Mars men. And then these videos might put them on the Mars men or Moon men. It might be like a way of introducing a new Mars men. But I'm going to have a 4 or 5 bold prediction series. Number 1 was Bijan Robinson would be the number 1 running back in fantasy football at the end of 2023. Not the number 1 rookie, not the number 1 dynasty guy. He's clearly both of those regardless. I'm saying he's the number 1 running back finisher in 2023. Go watch that video. It's a bold prediction. It's supposed to be a little bit bold. But it doesn't mean I don't think it's going to come true. It just means that I'm putting my name to it, and I'm saying I feel this way, and it's so shocking to a lot of people, I think. Not everybody. People on this channel love it. But for the most part, people are like, that's too crazy. He's a rookie. He's never touched the ball in the NFL. He's never taken an NFL snap. You don't even know where he's going to go. I don't care. I don't care. Like, what do you want me to do? Wait until things happen to announce them? We're not a Captain Obvious, show here. We're trying to be ahead of the curve, and sometimes it's uncomfortable. Sometimes I miss, but I think that is bold prediction number 1. Bold prediction number 2 is going to probably contain Garrett Wilson or potentially, a player. What were we just talking about? God, I get sidetracked so easy nowadays. What were we just talking about, Ada?
Oh, like just Herbert and like different signings for the running backs, the backups.
Yeah, but there's something else I was gonna say. Was it a rookie?
Oh, Bijan, like the Moon and Marsman.
What, Ron?
About Herbert or Pollard?
Pollard. There you go. Thank you, Ron. You're gonna see Pollard in one of these bold predictions, and I think Pollard has the capability of whatever expectation you have of Pollard, he can match it. He can double it. He's also risky though. Like, he's going to be my riskiest bold prediction of these top 5 videos, but certainly Pollard is going to be in there. Garrett Wilson will probably be in there, and I'm going to leave it a mystery. But there are going to be 3 or 4 more bold prediction videos dropping that are going to just amplify what we've already been talking about, but in a very bold prediction style. But Pollard I love, but Pollard, he's risky because he's still got to escape the NFL draft. He's still got to escape Kareem Hunt, who is the best available running back in the free agent market, in the free agent player pool. Kareem Hunt's he's gonna piss all over someone's parade. There's gonna be a running back that gets impacted by Kareem Hunt, and we're gonna go, son of a. I fear that. I fear that. Like, what if Kareem Hunt lands in New England? Like somewhere like that. You're like, son of a bee, man. What if he goes to? I think Kareem Hunt would have been great in Philly. I think he would have been great in Philly. I think Kareem Hunt would have been good in Carolina. I think Miles Sanders could be pretty good there. I've always been kind of like I don't know if I love Miles Sanders, but now that he's out of Philly, and that goes to show is maybe Philly, like KC, we think it's such a great place for an RB. Like, we want Bijan to go to Philly, and I think they would, if they drafted Bijan 10, they would use him. I really believe that. But at the same time, like, Philly didn't use Miles Sanders properly, so there's some concern with Philly and how they utilize the RB. Same thing with Buffalo. They seem so great on the surface, but we really don't know if they're the best location. KC always feels like the best location. Remember how excited we all were about Clyde going to KC? KC just rotates running backs now. I think if they got the right RB, they wouldn't, but I think that's not what Andy Reid wants to do right now. It's all about Mahomes. It's all about next man up. Even with the wide receivers, we all thought it wasn't going to work. We all, like, every single one of us thought this is not a better team without Tyreek Hill. There's no way you can, with a straight face, say that you thought that was going to make them better. And I'm not saying it made them better necessarily, but it didn't hurt them at all. And it probably made Mahomes better. It probably made Mahomes a little bit better, so that if Mahomes does reunite with an elite wide receiver and get paired up with one, that he's going to be that much better for it. It's always like my break an arm example. You're right-handed, you break your right arm, you learn how to do a lot of things with your left arm. Once your right arm, you get the cast off, you're just a more coordinated person in general because of that experience. I feel like losing Tyreek Hill allowed Mahomes to read defenses properly. Does anybody in here know that Mahomes' first year didn't know how to read a single defense? It's an unbelievable story when you hear about he didn't know how to read defenses his first year. It was he did all that without reading. He didn't know how to read defenses. It's crazy. Mahomes is still getting better. But there's certain locations that are just, we don't know what they're going to do for player value.
Pollard's the one that scares me because after you bringing up Jerry Jones, it's something that Jerry Jones would do, and Dallas getting Bijan, that would be Zeke's replacement, and putting Pollard right back to where his role that he had with Zeke, and Pollard falls off because they go crazy over Bijan.
The good news is that they have to trade up, which they could do. Jerry Jones is crazy. They have to trade up in order to get Bijan. There's no way the Cowboys are landing Bijan at 26 overall. It just can't happen.
Yeah. He's the type of person that would do that.
Yeah, trading up I could see, but yeah, I think we're safe until that trade happens. But I'm really hopeful, and I'm rooting for this for the RBs. RBs are so screwed. They get screwed on contracts. They don't get the amount of money they deserve. They don't get their second contracts like they should. Running backs should get paid a little more. There should be some sort of compensation involved. I really believe that, because it's not like if all things were fair and be like, hey, this is the way that it works, and you get some running backs get paid more, some don't. All of them get screwed, and I'm really hoping that I know that Bijan won't change the landscape for RBs, because they'll just revert back to RBs going late in round 1, or if there's one RB, they go like at 27, and then the rest of them go at the top of 2 or inside 2 and 3. I know Bijan's not going to change that by going in the top 10, but at least he could potentially open the minds of the next coach that's sitting there looking at the next elite running back, and at least we see every couple of years an RB go in the top 15. I think that this whole mentality of the next man up, have a plug and play running backs, I don't agree with it. I don't agree. I think there's always going to be room. Everything's a cycle. I don't think that running backs are going to be eliminated to the point where it's like you always just have this rotation. Everybody shares carries. Look at all the workhorse running backs that are in the NFL. Everybody says there's not very many at all. There are. There's still a ton of workhorse running backs in the NFL. Everything's a cycle. Bijan's a workhorse running back. Walker is a workhorse running back. Breece Hall is a workhorse running back. All the young elite running backs. Even Etienne is, to a degree, I call a hybrid workhorse, because if they throw to him enough, even if he does relinquish some work to the next RB, they used him extensively at the end of the year. So, like, he was a workhorse, but I hope they use him as a hybrid workhorse. Alvin Kamara is 100,000%, or has been during the good part of his career. He's kind of at that tipping point. But Alvin Kamara was a workhorse. I get so tired of people saying Alvin Kamara's never been a workhorse. He's a hybrid workhorse. He gets workhorse volume. Steven, try calling again. I missed it. Steven was dialing in. Sorry, Ron. Go ahead.
Nick Chubb was a workhorse.
Yeah, I mean, Henry's a workhorse, but Kamara is just as much of a workhorse to me than Henry. It's just he gets it in a different way. He gets a combination of rushing and receiving. So it's just all how you want to define workhorse. Najee's a workhorse. He should be. Steven, you're live.
Hey, what's going on, Smitty?
What's up, Steven?
Just a little bit, nobody's really been talking about it. Let's go down this road for a minute. I really don't want to, but, it's fantasy. So what do you expect from Deshaun Watson next year for the Browns? I mean, is he going to have a worse year than he had the last part, when he came back? No. Amari Cooper, some of these other receivers in that offense, if he even reverts back to the mean a little bit, there's a lot of yardage and touchdowns to be had there.
I guess I'm on a holding pattern, bro, where I don't believe in Watson to be the same player. There's something to when you step away from the game for a long time, you never really regain your momentum. Think of it like even in high school, if you're really good at something and you took a couple years off and you had a huge advantage over everybody else and you came back in and tried to play that sport again, everybody caught up to you. And I'm not saying that Watson can't 100% can't regain his former self, but it's highly unlikely. We saw him not do it this first year back, and you can blame that on rust, but if he's rusty for a whole year, who's to say he's ever going to just get it back? His confidence is kind of shot. Not saying he can't gain some of that back. The Browns are the Browns, in my opinion. I don't think they've ruined their franchise even acquiring him, and they don't have the ability to really build. And as they start to slowly bleed out players that they can't replace because of all their draft capital and all the money that's tied up, not that the salary cap increasing won't help them bring in some players, but you got to also think about when players leave and a franchise starts getting disappointing, It's not a really attractive place for players to go, so they won't lure in a lot of people. Look at the Bengals. Look at the Bengals 3 years ago when we started talking up the Bengals. People laughed at us, bro. No one wanted to go play there. You got Orlando Brown signing to go protect Joe Burrow. Everyone wants to go play for the Bengals now. I think the Browns are going to be in a whirlwind of unraveling.
Jonah Williams?
Well, that's entirely possible.
Hold on one second, Steven. What, Ron?
Now that the Bengals signed Orlando, Jonah Williams is asking to be traded.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens with that one. Steven, but yeah, I don't know. Ada, what do you think of Deshaun Watson?
That's tough. I mean, for me personally, it depends what he does this offseason. And if he's like grinding it out and he's like actually like putting in the work, that's different. That's going to be a thing where he actually like it's him improving. I mean, also to be fair, he set the bar so low. Just really, like from where he was. So I think if he actually puts in the work and tries to build with whatever he has, like build a relationship, I think he's going to improve regardless. It was more just the mental stuff. I don't think it was any like physical or anything like that. I think it was just more of the mental aspect and the whole like trying to get over the whole like.
Well, that's kind of what I was getting at is that he's a year removed from all this stupid stuff. Look, I don't particularly care for the guy personally. I don't care, but it's a fantasy show, and we're talking about yards and touchdowns and trying to find those players that you can get late that may contribute maybe later in the season. I don't know where the guy goes. You could get him probably round 9, 10, somewhere around there. Nobody wants him, and maybe he works out.
I've seen him go through in round 7 through 9. Personally, that's a little high because you got guys like Danny Dimes that were still going like round 10, 11. You got Carr that was going in like round 11. Guys that I feel like were of equal value going like 3 rounds later, and at that. In a normal draft with non-smack, like if we're not drafting with each other, you can get like a Zay Flowers, Charbonnet, all those kind of things in that same round where you're drafting Watson. That's why I never thought he was a value.
Well, he was on pace for 3,100 yards, which is garbage.
It is.
He threw 7 touchdowns in 6 games, so times 17 is 19 touchdowns. He had 5 He had 5 INTs. In 6 games, times 17 is pace for 14 INTs. So 19 touchdowns, 14 INTs. Granted, he had 175 yards on the ground and a touchdown, and that would all be good production to add to all this. But I mean, that was a very, very bad, 6 games returning to football.
Well, he's in a terrible situation, and he came back. He played, like you said, he played 6 games by the time he was eligible. Like I say, I don't like the guy. I don't want to draft him, but I'm just saying, he could. He's got weapons. He's got the team around him, and if he even gets, I don't know how he wouldn't get better than that. And if he does hit, then you've got something there that you can get in the later rounds.
I can't.
Amari Cooper, whatever. I
can't disagree with that. There's value if he falls far enough. And just to his defense, his last 2 games were pretty good. The yardage was okay. He had 169, but he had 3 passing touchdowns against the Washington Commanders, and then at Pittsburgh. And at Pittsburgh, 2 touchdowns, 230 yards at Pittsburgh, and he had 44 on the ground. So he had a really good week 17 and week 18. So there's momentum there, but for the long term, this team's going to slowly start falling apart, and I just don't know how they're going to look 2 or 3 years from now. Chubb's going to be either traded or fallen off the map in about a year. If not this year, Chubb could have.
If it gets, it'll be this year. The rest of it is, it will be downhill. It has to be this year. If it doesn't work, then you can pretty much write it off.
Yeah.
Just look at the Browns' history, and everybody's hoping that Deshaun, gets back to form and all that. But the Browns' history is not very good for quarterbacks. and not very good overall. I mean, they've been through so many quarterbacks. Before all this, before Baker, who'd they have? Who was their last good quarterback that they had?
Bernie Kosar.
No, well, there was another one that actually got them to the
Steven, lower your volume.
the playoffs in the 90s, I believe.
Kosar.
I forget his name. I think his last name started with a C.
Oh man.
Kush. Shoot, I can't remember his name.
Had to be another Miami quarterback. I think they had 2 or 3 of them.
No, I can't remember his name right now, but he was the last decent one they had up until Baker. But
You talking about Tim Couch?
Couch, yeah. Couch. Couch wasn't great.
Jimmy Couch.
Okay.
God bless him.
He got him to the playoffs, and he was decent, but ever since then, I mean, they keep shooting themselves in the foot. Every time you think the Browns have a chance to get better, and of course they're arch rival of the Steelers, but every time you think they have a chance, they shoot themselves in the foot. They go through coaches like crazy, and
where you been, Adam?
The upper management ownership's terrible.
Yeah. Oh, look, I love it. I'm a Ravens fan, so any Browns, it's fine. They could jump off a bridge or whatever. I love it.
Hey, Steven, ever since we had this guy Flounder on, you're like a breath of fresh air. You're like an angel. Like the voice of an angel compared to this Flounder guy. Like I can't even get mad at Steve.
I don't know that I've ever been called that in my life. Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know a bad thing to say about you all of a sudden. I mean,
Congratulations, Steven. You graduated.
This is an angel.
Yeah, I made it to angel territory. I'll tell you what, that's got to be pretty high up there.
It is, bro. You and Ron Navy are like just walking.
Well, what else do I have to do so I can start getting paid?
I don't know that there's that territory, bro. But
okay, I'm not there yet. I got to get above angel status to get paid. That's cool.
This is a solo show, Steven. You can be my Beetlejuice or my Baba Booey, but
we're volunteers.
Interns. So hey guys, I'm gonna probably wind it down here. Steven, final 10 seconds. What do you want to say before I knock you off the phone line here?
I think Jameson Williams is going to surprise a lot of people this year. I think Justin Jefferson, with the departure of Adam Thielen, if they replace him with a rookie or whatever, he'll get a lot more work, and I think it'll pay off. It could make him as number 1 receiver. That's about all I got for now. And Lamar is going to go to San Francisco. I'll leave it at that.
He could. It just got to happen after the draft, but he definitely could. Look, I think if Purdy has a setback, if Trey gets injured, again, there's a lot of time. The Niners need to go all in on Lamar. If Lamar's still sitting there after the NFL draft, at which point they can participate in the offer sheet situation, they can't right now. They're unable to even discuss anything with Lamar. Because you need a first.
That offense is tailor made for Lamar Jackson. It's perfect.
Yeah,
if they don't do it, I'll be upset.
Yeah, they need to do it. But I don't know that they will. I think it has to be a John Lynch forced move because Shanahan's ego is too big. It's too big. But John Lynch made that CMC trade. That was all John Lynch. He has a Stanford connection. It was clear as day. And my people very close to the situation, even Raj, even my Niner boys, they said that was John Lynch. That was all John Lynch, that move. It was not Shanahan. John Lynch needs to step up and get the Lamar Jackson deal done and say, look, Shanahan, I'm going to give you the players. You just coach them. Okay, because you're no longer making decisions. It's my turn, baby. Because that CMC move was all John, and it was an amazing move. And I actually have a lot of respect for John Lynch now. But again, this has to happen after the NFL draft. They cannot even talk to him.
Absolutely.
So, but given that Lamar's got very limited suitors right now, it's very possible he's still sitting there. It's also possible he goes back, ends up getting traded away later or something. We'll have to see. But all right, appreciate you, Steven. We'll talk to you later, pal.
All right. Take it easy, fella.
Ada, 10 seconds, go.
hopefully the Vikings do keep Kirk Cousins for another 10 years. That'd be great. I think Herbert's to the moon. And I guess we'll see about all the other running backs. And everyone can argue about wide receiver. Yeah.
All right, Adam. Appreciate you, man.
Have a good one.
Ron Navy, final thoughts.
Yeah, well, I don't know why everybody hates Kirk Cousins so bad. He's one of the most consistent quarterbacks out there. So hate him on all you want. He's just going to keep getting it done, and he's going to even go further this year. But that's about it. Are we drafting tonight or no?
What is today? Friday?
Friday.
I believe so. I'll
take that as a maybe.
Yeah, just be subscribed. Everybody should be subscribed to my Instagram. I'm going to drop the link right here, my Instagram channel. This channel I announce whenever I'm going live, so if you are missing notifications by YouTube sometimes, make sure you grab this. Go on Instagram. This is free, and this channel will give you what you need. You'll be subscribed. You'll get notifications every time I go live. Let me drop this link in the live chat, so make sure you're subscribed to this right now. Here it is. Here it is. Here it is. This is my Instagram live show channel alerts. Okay, here it is. Dropping it, and I'm going to pin it real quick for all of you. Here it is.
He's getting the hang of how everything's working out. He's not over talking. He's making his points, and he's gotten better in the last couple of times.
Yeah, I feel like he was potentially maybe sipping on some of Grandpa's cough medicine that first night. I don't know. It's not. He sounds different when he calls in now. I just pinned that channel. That channel is pinned. It's a link on Instagram. It's free. It's just like a DM conversation, but it's a one-way conversation. You can only react and do emojis and such. But it'll let you know when I'm going live. Every time I go live, I put a message in there, so you'll get an alert. So that way you'll know if we're drafting tonight. All right, I'll see you guys. We probably should be drafting tonight. I'll see you all later. Ron, appreciate you.
Yep, later.
All right, later. Guys, don't forget my video that's up, my wide receiver rankings video. I just dropped it a little bit ago, about an hour and 50 minutes ago. It had these wide receivers right here minus the change that I made live on the show today after I'd already dropped this. And that change was I put Olave in at 9 over Waddle. I just want Olave in my top 10. I want Olave in my top 10. Waddle could go 10. A.J. Brown could go 10. It's a combination of different things that factor into this. But at the end of the day, I want Olave at 9. If I was to redo the video right now, I could see myself putting Olave at 8. I honestly could. I feel like Olave is just going to explode. He's going to explode. And I want him to be held back as much as I can in terms of ADP, but it's already happening. Kick it. You wake up late for school and you don't want to go, says Hazel. Appreciate you, Hazel, being in here. Hazelnut says, what did Hazelnut say? Did he say something like, I don't have social media? Well, then subscribe here and you should get the notifications. But sometimes they throttle them. If I go live too much, they only give you one every couple hours because they don't want you to be overwhelmed. Appreciate you all. Terry says he needs to rewatch. Terry, appreciate you being here. I will see you all later. My top 10 wide receivers. Again, this just changed from the live video, the premiere. Olave's 9. Everything else is the same, but put Olave at 9. I'll see you all later. Appreciate you. Prayers up to Kilpatrick. Drop a couple prayer emojis for Kilpatrick if you can. Got his message still up. We'll leave that up there. Good wishes over to Miss Kilpatrick. Keep us updated, Kilpatrick. My office is already a mess, Ron. Appreciate you, Ron Navy, dropping the $20 holler. Ron Navy says, got to do it. He wants to make my office a disaster. Let me see if I can show the office right here.
And off he goes.
Look at all this. Yeah, buddy. Just made it a whole big mess.
The tripod, also likened to pyramids in ancient Egypt, are constructed using burrow or Hertz, chase or a JB Hull or Walker.
The stack above all stacks. It's time to drop the pancake emojis in the live chat.
Kenneth Skywalker. Kenneth Lightsaber Swinging Skywalker.